You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, John, I'm not saying I'm the best, but I try to be better than some. Anyway, in the news today, well, Trump pushes out Jeff Sessions as our Attorney General. And only in America can we have the president request that our Attorney General or any official sign and send a letter in to the president saying that they resign. It's a requested resign. I don't know. And in Congress, we got 7, congressmen and ladies that have been elected into the Congress who are scientists. So maybe they might get their acts together on earth changes, the weather, climate, and all this stuff. And if you don't back Trump 100%, let's say he gave you a job in some type of a government official, if you don't back him 100%, well, you're out. Anyway, tonight we have Steve Bassett as our guest. We'll be on right after this with Steve.
Please check out the Night Dreams Talk Radio website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Also, if you want to keep our show free of advertising, just hit the donate button. Give a buck or two. Remember, all prior shows are always free to listen to. We at Night Dreams Talk Radio thank you for your support.
Well, here I am down at the compound, and I'm talking to Steve Bassett. Steve, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Gary. This nice evening in California.
Oh, yeah. How's your weather there in California, the temperature?
It's probably about 70 degrees. It's terrible, but we bear on.
Oh, wow. I wish I was at 70 degrees. Oh, I walked out this morning, almost fell going down the stairs. It actually had a little bit of ice on it. Hey, the election last night, how did you take it? I mean, with, the Congress kind of now switching over to the Democratic Party.
How did I take it? It's what was expected.
I thought it was. I mean, I think people were so fed up with the administration that they were going to go the opposite.
Whatever the reasons, again, as someone who's been dealt with politics for a long time and follows it very closely, it is almost exactly what was expected. The Senate pickup was probably a more recent outcome of the president's extensive campaigning in a number of states, very extensive. But obviously the House is a different matter because you have 435 districts, and, you can't do a lot of campaigning. I mean, there's only so many districts you can go to. So it's pretty much what was expected, and obviously there's going to be some fairly dramatic events in the near future.
Do you think they'll go to the point of trying to maybe, if put it this way, since our former Attorney General is out of his job right now, and the person who's temporarily replacing him is kind of more towards Trump than Sessions was, and if he gets rid of the special counsel, do you think the Congress might go as far as starting impeachment or anything like that? What's your gut feeling?
I don't expect impeachment. I don't expect impeachment to happen, nor do I expect it to be necessary. There's going to be a lot happening, intensive things happening between now and even January 3rd when the new Congress takes over. I mean, that's 75 days away. So, you'll see some talk about it, but again, it's I don't think where things are heading. But some people are going to talk about it simply because it's clearly possible to do it. Obviously, to complete an impeachment with a conviction is not possible, and everyone, I think, knows that. So we're in some uncharted territory. I mean, it's not totally uncharted. I mean, I went through the Watergate. I was in Washington during the Watergate crisis. I was there during the Iran-Contra crisis. I'm very familiar with the Pentagon Papers and what happened there. So it's not unprecedented in all respects, but there are some aspects to it which are new. And so we're in for some very interesting times, some excellent television and gripping TV.
I think so. I think also we might end up finally seeing our president's tax returns because, I was reading today in the news that the Congress has that authority to demand that the IRS give them Trump's tax return.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of things in the next 45 days, not the least of which will be that.
So, what do you think is going on with our Space Force? Do you think that will ever be approved by Congress to actually fund it, to get it going? Or do you think it's right now just talk?
That's a little tricky. I really don't expect much from the president's quote initiative, Space Force initiative. There's already indications that the Pentagon is not particularly interested in it, and is not doing much. It's also worth noting that we've always had a military space program, including a classified military space program. It's called a Space Command. And in that sense, the Space Force concept is really redundant. So that is not, to me, a significant matter. The secret and non-public space program is another matter. And there's concerns there. And I think we need to deal with that. And it's all part of the revealing process, so that we can pare back the secret empire and the military intelligence complex to not only appropriate activities, perhaps appropriate size and funding, and a higher degree of transparency. But that's obviously a very complicated issue. You could devote 3 or 4 shows to that.
Oh, yeah. My gut feeling, and I could be 180% totally wrong here, but my feeling that Trump just kind of used that, as a ploy to, get things off of other subjects by, mentioning, creating a space force just to, whatever. Now, I could be wrong on that.
It's not unusual for presidents to throw all kinds of things out for purposes of distraction. Nothing new there. And that could very well be the case with the Space Force thing that was tossed out. I'm inclined to think it's a distraction, but only the president knows if it's truly a distraction.
Oh, yeah. So what is going on in Washington about UFOs, contacts, anything new, been going on since we talked about 4 months ago?
Very little. We are in the middle of a constitutional crisis. Actually, we've been in a constitutional crisis for some time, and it's worsening by the week. It's about to get even worse. The media is utterly absorbed with it. I don't think that's surprising. The print media, as well as television media. The number of stories in the press for this year engaging the ET issue, and I chronicle them. I actually have a section on my paradigmresearchgroup.org website, print media archive. I've got 10,000 links to stories on this subject going back to 1947. This year, the number of stories, and I haven't altered my criteria for selection, has dropped almost 60%. So the situation in terms of advancing an issue of this is a very huge issue, right? It's just extremely difficult in this political environment and media environment. So very little is happening. The most important thing that has happened regarding the disclosure issue, UFO stuff I chronicle the articles, but it's not simply significant to me. Sightings here, there, whatever. It's not, to me, important. The ETs are here. We already know that. What's important now is the political prospects toward disclosure, and that's where people's attention is being directed. That's where the excitement is developing. The last major thing that happened was the emergence in October of last year of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, which we call a TTS/AAS. Just Google To the Stars. This project that was developed within the Pentagon and the CIA, in other words, within the military intelligence complex, to ultimately create an organization made up of former members of the military intelligence complex to start bringing information to the public that was legal and declassified. In other words, the military intelligence complex stepped up to become the leader, the de facto leader of the disclosure movement on October 11th, 2017. The public persona, the public head of this is Tom DeLonge, a very successful and wealthy musician. The key political spokesperson is probably Christopher Mellon, and the key tech spokesperson is Louis Elizondo. I encourage everybody to become very familiar with the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences. Just Arts and Science. Just Google To the Stars Academy. That was launched on the 11th, 17th to see what would happen. And it got a lot of press, but it quickly faded. I think they plan to raise a great deal of money with a what is called a public service corporation. That was part of the announcement. But again, that did not reach expectations. I think they raised between $1 and $2.5 million. It's not clear how much. Still, it's a lot from my perspective, but not what they expected. Nevertheless, they moved ahead with their first major project, which was to provide a very significant story in the New York Times through interviews that they gave to the reporters there. And those stories broke on December the 16th, in which they announced a previously unknown Pentagon study on the ET issue, 2007-2012, and the person that ran it, and the fact that it was initiated at the behest of Senate Majority Leader Reid, that billionaire Robert Bigelow was involved, and so forth and so forth. And, of course, they released some gun camera footage for the first time ever, formally released. And one of the most important pieces was the Nimitz event. All of this and the pilots were interviewed, and all of this generated a decent amount of news, and then it was sucked up into the void. And so then they really slowed down. And so the To the Stars Academy has been slow walking their activities since December of last year. A little here, a little there, nothing major. And all of this is chronicled on my website. You can go there and find an extensive section with 100 of the media interviews, video interviews, and media video coverages at paradigmresearchgroup.org. And the reason they're slow walking it, quite simply, is that this is a major thing. The entrance of the military intelligence complex into the disclosure movement in a formal way is a huge event in the history of the United States and the world. But it unfortunately, the timing worked out where they had to do it in the middle of a political hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
Or 5. And so what do? You have to wait till the hurricane passes. Otherwise, nobody can hear what you have to say. So that's kind of, and Paradigm Research Group's activity was essentially neutralized. I mean, it's nothing I could do. I mean, going back to November of 2016, since then, I've been extremely limited. I did make a trip to Europe for 6 months. I did go to Moscow, gave an interview, did some things. But in terms of really, raising money and making progress, it's pretty much stymied. And so that's the situation. But that is going to change pretty